What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Next Pats podcast. I'm Phil Perry coming at you from Eagan, Minnesota at the TCO Performance Center. It's right there in the background, just a beautiful facility here that the Vikings have to practice all year long. It is the site of the two joint practices that the Patriots just went through here in Minnesota. This was a really entertaining couple days of football, friends. Highly competitive, explosive in terms of the football on the field, a little emotional and a little explosive on the field in terms of some of the extracurriculars as well. So we want to give you a full blow-by-blow account of day two, because if you want details on day one, all you have to do is go back to our most recent episode of the Patriots Talk podcast with Tom Curran. We go into all kinds of detail there as to why, in my opinion, the Patriots won the day on day one. Offensively, trading haymakers with the Vikings defense in that exotic blitzing scheme that Brian Flores likes to employ. Day two, the Vikings dominated, and so that's where we are really going to dive deep, is on day two and the details therein. But we're also going to get to a stock watch after 2 days of practice, who's trending in the right direction, who isn't. We're also going to give you a quick update on Stefon Diggs and a little bit of a back and forth between myself and head coach Mike Vrabel, an entertaining back and forth, in my opinion, and where Vrabel's head is at in terms of Diggs' readiness for week one. The receiver put that into some doubt with some recent comments to The Athletic's Diana Rossini. But first, let's get to the nitty-gritty of what happened on day two between the Patriots and the Vikings. First and foremost, there is no way to sugarcoat this. The Patriots got their hindquarters handed to them on Thursday. Defensively, J.J. McCarthy looked surgical at times, and he is a player, obviously going into his second year, but missed essentially all of his rookie year due to a knee injury that he suffered last summer. It might be, based on what we've heard from some Vikings reporters who've been covering this closely, one of the best practices he's had this year, and so not what you're looking for if you're Mike Vrabel, if you're defensive coordinator Terrell Williams, and this Patriots defense. So how did they do it? How did the Patriots get beat? Well, they found some mismatches, the Vikings did, in the Patriots secondary. They were without Jabril Peppers today. They obviously continue to be without Christian Gonzalez. So Carlton Davis was out there, but he looks like a limited participant at times, and so Marcus Jones, unfortunately for him, looked to be the guy that the Vikings were picking on, and especially when he found himself in coverage on their behemoth tight end, TJ Hawkinson. That is a clear physical mismatch, and TJ Hawkinson and JJ McCarthy were able to make Marcus Jones pay. A little bit of a disappointing day for Marcus Jones, after I thought he made the play of the day defensively for the Patriots on day one, falling off his coverage and making what ended up looking like an easy interception, but doing a good job of understanding his responsibilities, also understanding where J.J. McCarthy was going to go with the ball. Looked like he telegraphed that particular throw, but Marcus Jones falling off his coverage, going and doubling another receiver, and ends up making the easy pick. I thought that was a nice, smart, heady play for a guy who has been in the league now for several years, but ends up having a down day today. Worthy of note when it comes to the Patriots defense, they were without Jabril Peppers. Now, he played on day one. We'll try to find out what's going on with him that allowed him to be a non-participant on day two. But Kyle Duggar, the slide of Kyle Duggar, still noteworthy because he remained with the backups despite Peppers being down. So you would think one safety goes down, Duggar elevates from being a backup lately to potentially a starter, but it was Jalen Hawkins and Craig Woodson, the rookie fourth-round pick, who we have potted about extensively here on Next Pats, who were your starters in the secondary. Now, they got beat at times today, too. So for the Patriots defense, day two here in Minnesota was the kind of day where even some of their top performers this summer did not have their best days. J.J. McCarthy, I thought, did a nice job in the 2-minute drill at the end of practice, getting the Vikings into the end zone. They were down 6. There was a minute left, and very little resistance from that Patriots defense. How about offensively? How did things go there? I can tell you, they didn't go any better. Now, Drake Maye was 7 for 12. He was not the issue. Your soon-to-be 23-year-old quarterback was not the problem on either day one, when the Patriots offense ran into issues, or day two, when they experienced issues consistently. The problem was all about pressure and the lack of pass protection on a consistent basis that Drake Maye was provided. So 7 for 12 through the air, but 7 sacks. Even worse than on day one when he was sacked, quote unquote sacked, 6 times. So 7 sacks in a day that was really focused on the red zone and the 2-minute period at the very end of practice. Situations where you're going to want to have the football out quickly. Of course, it doesn't always go by design, but it seemed like it didn't go by design more often than not today for Drake Maye and his offense. Too much immediate pressure off the snap. Even when he was given time, his receivers weren't getting open. He had a couple of throwaways, which I thought were smart plays. When there's nobody available to you, even if you have time, you can't try to force it. And so I thought that might be a silver lining for the Patriots, is the fact that Drake Maye, no turnovers through 2 days. And again, hit the Vikings defense for some big plays on day one. And that's sort of the live by the sword, die by the sword nature of the Vikings defense, is they love to bring pressure. But if they don't get home when they do bring that pressure, it leaves openings on the back end. Drake Maye, when he had time on Wednesday, was able to strike down the field, hit Mac Hollins for an easy touchdown. He hit Travion Henderson, the dynamic rookie running back that we talked about extensively here, for a long 60-yard touchdown as well. But on Thursday, those explosive plays simply were not there. And there were a lot of plays. I had him for not only 7 sacks, but I had 4 different opportunities where he dropped back, looked for a receiver, either was pressured immediately and was forced to scramble, or found nothing and wasn't necessarily sacked, but felt all he could do was to try to pick up some yardage with his legs. The offensive line, where do we start there? 2 sacks for your veteran, Morgan Moses, after I thought having a pretty good day on day one. 3 sacks and a false start penalty for your rookie left tackle, Will Campbell. And this was, in my estimation, his worst practice of the summer. As somebody who has been here for every single practice, and somebody who has watched Will Campbell closely and has told you when he's done well and told you when he hasn't. I thought today, again, what's the sense in sugarcoating it? Mike Vrabel, isn't going to do that when they get back into the meetings here. They're just off campus at the Omni Hotel, Viking Lakes, about 100 yards away. Our tremendous photographer, Bill Messina Moose, could probably throw a rock from here through Will Campbell's window, make his day even a little bit worse. Now, he would never do that, but it was a really rough day for Will Campbell. Interesting in that the Patriots decided to make a little bit of a change next to Will Campbell, and the results, not good. Jared Wilson, the rookie 3rd-round pick, who has been the starter at left guard now for weeks, was moved off of that spot, and Ben Brown, who's been a backup center for the most part and a backup guard at times, was your starter at left guard today. Now, we'll try to find out what's going on exactly with Jared Wilson, but I'll just tell you the sequence of events this morning. I was told there was going to be a change on the Patriots offensive line before practice. The change was Brown in for Wilson. Now, Wilson was on the field and in pads with all of his teammates during the early half-speed portion of practice that even precedes the warm-up, the stretching, the dynamic warm-up. And so Wilson's on the field, and he looks like he's ready to play. Brown is the starter. So it didn't seem like it was a decision based on Wilson's health at that point in time. It seemed like it was a decision based on performance, and it made sense. Wilson had a rough go of it in that preseason opener against the Commanders. He had what I thought was a difficult couple of practices in Foxborough after that preseason opener. Then we get here for day one of joint practices with Minnesota. I thought he lost both of his one-on-one reps to Javon Hargrave, who was a very accomplished defensive tackle, very talented and powerful guy. He got lifted off his feet, I saw, on one-on-one rep, and then in the game itself, or in the 11-on-11 portion of that practice on day one, he was beaten for a sack, and it just looked like it was a struggle at times for him to even create in the run game. There were a couple of holding penalties called on the Patriots offense. Hard to tell who those were on, but it looked like it was somewhere in the interior. So if one or both of those were called on the rookie, you could understand why Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, Doug Marrone, the offensive line coach, might say to themselves, it's time for us to make a change. Things are just moving a little too quickly for our rookie 3rd-rounder. They get out to practice today, and again, Ben Brown's in ahead of Jared Wilson. Now, then they go to the one-on-one portion of practice, which is really the first competitive portion of practice. And Ben Brown's out there with the starters, and he takes his reps. And by the way, it doesn't go well. He gets dominated on both reps, again, by Javon Hargrave. And then in the 11-on-11, he had a heck of a time as well, Ben Brown did at times. But during that one-on-one period of practice, Wilson was there, and it looked like he might participate. And then in the middle, without having taken a single one-on-one rep, he ends up walking off the field, and we did not see him return. So it seems like he's dealing with something physically. Is that what sparked the decision to remove him from the starting lineup, or was it strictly his performance? Based on the sequence of events, I'm guessing now, and again, we'll try to find out more soon, I'm guessing it was based on performance. For him to be fully padded and look like he was ready to practice and then to leave after practice begins, that is more indicative to me of somebody who just started dealing with something as opposed to somebody who maybe got hurt at the end of practice on day one and wasn't able to participate on day two. But again, we'll try to knock down some details as far as what is going on with that left guard spot. But if there's a conversation happening now in those meetings at the Omni Hotel, a stone's throw away, my guess is when it comes to the offense, it has to start with the offensive line, because not only do you have issues at left guard, we just talked about the issues Will Campbell had on the left side, dealing mostly with Jonathan Grenard, who's a very good player, don't get me wrong. But this isn't Myles Garrett, this isn't Max Crosby, this isn't TJ Watt. You know, this is a player who is a good player, but is the kind of player that Will Campbell will see on a regular basis over the course of his rookie season at left tackle. So, just a down day for a rookie whose head might be spinning a little bit in the dog days of camp. That would be where I would start in terms of describing what happened to Will Campbell today, but let's see how he progresses. I did get a chance to ask his teammate Morgan Moses about Will Campbell and his performance today, and if he thinks it might just be moving a little too rapidly right now for the rookie from LSU. Here's what Morgan Moses had to say.
It's for everybody. You know, you're seeing different things. You know, it's a different offense, so everybody's learning together. The key is you make one mistake one day, don't come back and make the same mistake the next day. You know, find something else to make a mistake on that we can, get better every day about. And I think Will's done a great job of that. It's just, getting better every day, asking questions, and that's what you want as a young guy.
So you can hear there confidence in Morgan Moses' voice when it comes to Will Campbell and his performance. But again, this was a problem today, and so we want to give you the details of the day today. Let's see how they perform in the preseason game. I don't know, and I've asked. I don't know, and the team hasn't discussed before coming out to practice today how they're going to handle their starters in their second preseason game here in Minnesota. But my guess is you won't see much of the starters based on 2 full days of practice here in Minnesota and not many reps for some of the deeper down the depth chart reserves. Those will be the guys who handle the majority of the work, obviously, on Saturday. Big picture, when you're looking at the 2 days put together, what are the takeaways? For me, number one, after 13 sacks over 2 days of 11-on-11 periods, you start with the protection and you try to figure out what exactly do you want at left guard. Is Jared Wilson going to be able to be an answer for you there? Is it Ben Brown? Is it somebody else entirely that we haven't even discussed yet? Will Campbell, how can you settle him down and help him out so that things don't start to spiral on him? Big picture, in terms of your quarterback, that to me is the positive. Kept his poise, kept his wits about him, 0 turnovers over the course of 2 practices against a very difficult to match up with type of defense. That has to be the most encouraging takeaway from these 2 days of work against the Minnesota Vikings. All right, let's get into the stock watch portion of the program here, shall we? I'm going to start with Drake Maye. Stock up. 13 of 21 on day 1, 7 of 12 on day 2, 0 turnovers, 20 for 33 total over 2 days. That's just over 60%. But given some of the situations where you were working second and long on day 1 of practice, that was the focus, and then a 2-minute drill. And then on day 2, red zone, where everything is congested, it's tight, it's difficult to find open lanes there, plus a 2-minute period at the end of day 2. I think over 60%, again, against a very good defense, working with an offensive line that feels patchwork right now and with a group of receivers that haven't really separated themselves as being next level. And that, to me, is a positive day, and we'll get into some of the receiver performance in our stock down category. Stock up. Travion Henderson continues to be reliable. He was especially explosive on day 1, 60-yard catch and run for a touchdown. He had another over-the-shoulder, what looked like a catch to me, but was ruled incomplete by the officials on the field. I don't know, they had a better view of it than I did, but it certainly looked to me, and it looked like, based on some fan videos that we were able to acquire, It looked like a catch. So Travion Henderson still looking like a special physical talent and a reliable receiver out of the backfield. And then defensively, I'm going to go with Keion White as a stock-up player for the Patriots defense. Generated pressure on both days from what I was able to see, and he is just powering through people. You're not getting a whole lot of finesse from Keion White, but he is running through people's faces, and I saw him do it on multiple occasions. Picked up a sack on day one. I had him for another on day two. So in terms of the consistency of the pressure, the Patriots didn't have it on day two the same way they did on day one. 7 different players looking like they got into the backfield for sacks on day one, but Keion White seemed to be the guy who looked like he was the most consistent from my vantage point. Now, stock down, Will Campbell. Mentioned it already. 2 sacks on day one, 3 and a false start during the 2-minute drill on day two. Rough couple of days for the rookie left tackle. Jared Wilson, demoted, maybe hurt now, and when he was on the field on day one, seemed to have a difficult time. Now, I will say, Campbell and Ben Brown at left guard, Campbell and Jared Wilson at left guard on day one. It feels like they have improved. One area where maybe they have improved is on those games, those twists, those stunts, where Drake Maye was sacked and fumbled in the preseason opener against Washington. Those types of plays that require communication and understanding of what the defense is trying to do to you, they improved there, and I did not see a lot of pressure generated on those types of plays, and the Vikings certainly threw a bunch of them at them, but still, for me, both Campbell and Wilson are stock down. I mentioned Moses, I mentioned Ben Brown, tough days for them, but I'm going to have Pop Douglas as a stock down guy as well. Now, Pop Douglas had a fumble on day one, despite being one of their most explosive options on day one and having a couple of impressive catches on day two. He had a very clear drop, and then another pass that I thought was a drop, but he kind of called me on it after the fact when I mentioned that he might have had a pair of drops. He's going across the middle. He's extending beyond his frame. He reaches up with 2 hands. It glanced off his hands. I think that's a catch Pop Douglas should have. He initially had some pushback to that, then accepted responsibility. Here's what Pop Douglas had to say about his day 2 performance. On those drops, Pop, is that just concentration? Is it fatigue? Is it, we're late into the summer sort of dog
days?
I
took? How many drops?
Well, you just told us it was really just one.
Yeah,
the other one kind of bounced off your hands there.
One hand. But I'm gonna take
okay.
it. Me, forget it. Me.
No, good.
Both of them
you
me.
Were there. You
I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it. Yeah.
Oh,
Nah, fact. I ain't even too much tripping. Both of them me. I gotta have it. If it's by me, it's mine. So the both of them mine. I'm gonna make those. I'm make those plays, man. Just more concentration. I was ready to get out on that one in the middle of the field, and that's what I just got to catch before I run.
All right, so there is your stock watch. Now let's get into a little Stefon Diggs before we wrap things up here. What is going on with the Patriots veteran receiver? Had an interview with the Athletic's Diana Rossini. Made it sound as though he's not so sure he's going to be ready for week 1. A little bit of a head scratcher for a guy who has essentially, even though he's been managed at times, he's essentially been a full participant in these practices for the Patriots during camp. But here's what he told Rossini.
How was that, Nay? How you feel? Like where are we at?
We'll see.
I've been hearing that you push too much.
Yeah,
I've been hearing that you're trying to perform more than be smart about what to do here.
I heard that too, man. We'll
this
see,
is Scoop
man.
City. I'm getting all the scoops.
Everybody's excited, man. I'm just like taking it day by day.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes,
Is it hard
man.
because I feel for you because you obviously are overdoing it at times because you want to be out there and you're such a competitor. It's hard to hold back when I'm sure you're on a timeline, right, where you got to hit certain marks to make sure you feel good. But overall, you feel like you're moving.
I feel great. I mean, I'm pushing the needle always. I'm always on doing more than less, and we'll see about week 1. I don't know how I feel about it. We'll see. Coaches aren't too excited. I'm not too excited. I'm just trying to take it day by day. So we'll see, man. It looks like we just don't know where it's gonna go.
Yeah, there's a chance, but you just got to get through camp, right? That's the goal as the team right now.
We'll see what happens.
So, being the diligent journalists that we are, we've got to follow up with the head coach on that, right? Any chance that the Patriots don't think Stefon Diggs, he is still relatively fresh off that ACL, any chance they don't think he's going to be ready for week 1? I asked Mike Vrabel, and we had a little bit of a back and forth. Here it is.
Mike, Stefon made some comments yesterday about how he's not sure about his readiness for week 1.
Did you really believe that, Phil? I mean, you're a smart guy. I don't know where you went to school. It wasn't Ohio State, but do you really believe that? Do you really believe that, Phil, or are you just trying to bait me into something?
I'm not baiting you.
Okay.
He did say he wasn't sure he'd be ready for week 1. Is there any doubt in your mind?
I don't know the context in which he said it, but you'd have to help me. I mean, he's been out here almost every day. I'm excited to where he's at, and we'll see when week 1 comes. But he's going to practice today. Hopefully he helps us in the red zone. But we can't predict the future about week 1. I just know he's going to be out there today. And he works hard and, he cares, which are 2 important things.
Georgetown University, Mike, they call it the Ohio State of the Potomac. Georgetown University, just for future reference. I know he's probably a big fan of the podcast. I'm sure he listens every week. What I took from that answer from Mike Vrabel was, yeah, he's going to be ready for week 1. What are we talking about here? Which, to me, is what makes a lot of sense. Don't know why Stefon Diggs would have explained it that way to Diana Rossini when he was talking to her. Would love to be able to ask Stefon Diggs a follow-up about how he's feeling and where he's at and what his level of readiness will be when the games actually start to matter. But it's my understanding that Stefon Diggs is not planning on talking to the local media until he plays in a game. So that could be, in theory, as early as Saturday, though I have my doubts. It could be for the preseason finale the following week against the Giants down in New Jersey, although I have my doubts. So maybe it won't be till week 1. And then by the time we get to week 1, I guess we'll know whether or not he's actually ready to play week 1. Now, how has he performed? That, to me, is the more important question. He has continued to be relatively quiet in the 11-on-11 portions of practice. And I think that's worth noting, because for players coming back off of ACL injuries, even though these are not full contact practices, the 11-on-11 portion is a little different from 7-on-7. It's obviously very different from 1-on-1. And for players coming off of severe injuries, especially ACLs, I do think it takes some of them some time to get more comfortable just working around other bodies at full speed. It's all well and good to be able to run through cones and plant and cut and run routes on air. It's just different when there's 21 other bodies on the field that you have to navigate. And that, to me, might be one of the reasons why he has been a little bit more quiet. Now, that's not to say he hasn't been effective. Some nuance to the takes here on the Next Pats podcast when it comes to Stefon Diggs. 3 targets, 3 catches in the 11-on-11 periods of practice. And he has had moments in 7-on-7 where he's looked good. I thought one of his best plays of the 2 days of practice here in Minnesota was a slide and catch in 7-on-7s where he's in the back of the end zone. They're working the red zone. Back of the end zone, sliding to avoid contact with another player, sliding to go get a low football that was sinking on him. Excellent catch, excellent move by him to help him stay in bounds. Just the kind of savvy veteran receiver play that you would expect for Stefon Diggs to make. I also thought he made one of the most physically impressive plays of camp for him on day 1 in the 1-on-1 period of practice. We got some tremendous video from our guy Moose where he's wins his route down the sideline. We have not seen many vertical routes from Stefon Diggs in camp. 1-on-1, again, it's not 11-on-11, it's not even 7-on-7. You got the whole field to work with. Very difficult for the defensive backs, those 1-on-1 situations. But he beats his defender, gets down the field. Great late hands kinds of catch. So he's not stretching out, waiting for the football to come in and allowing the defensive back who is in close coverage to be able to play through his hands and knock away the football. Very late hands. Very nice job getting his feet in bounds, and he makes the catch, and he flexes in front of some poor Viking staffer that, does he know him? Does he not know him? It's been a while since he's been in Minnesota. But you saw the intensity, you saw the hands, you saw the athleticism to win off the line and down the field, all things that you hope to see if you're the Patriots or one of their fans. You just haven't seen it consistently in the full team periods. I think it would be nice for them. I think for us, it will be worthy of note when he starts to make plays like that in full team practices, because that will tell me and others that, yes, Stefon Diggs is actually getting back to being something close to, something approximating the Stefon Diggs of old. Again, even if I don't think he's a number 1 wide receiver, which I don't think he is at this point in time, I do think he can be a productive player for the New England Patriots and really help their offense. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Next Pats podcast. Thanks for making it as far as you have with us. Thanks for hanging out with us through 2 days of joint practices, Patriots Talk podcast, Next Pats podcast. Hopefully you'll hang out with me on 98.5 The Sports Hub on Saturday. I'll be on the broadcast again with Bob Sosi on play-by-play. I get the chance to keep the seat warm for my buddy Scott Zolak, and I'll do the color there. Will be a lot of fun. It always is. even if the starters don't necessarily play all that much. We'll try to find out between now and then how much actually they will play. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Phil A. Perry. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts. If you could leave us a comment, even better. I'll be mixing it up in the comments on YouTube ASAP. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you on Next Pats next week.